If you're not familiar with Markdown, Markdown is a very simple syntax for writing a text-based product. I'll give an example. This is a little secret. Let's see if this works, because sometimes it doesn't work. Here's a little secret. Every one of the Sly Flourish articles that I write are written in Markdown. And this is an example of a document in Markdown. You can see it uses like double pound signs for headers. It has a very basic link format of brackets and parens for links. For strongs and italicize, you can use like double stars. There's a very simple syntax for Markdown. And it's been now around for quite a while. It's a format originally developed by an Apple developer named John Gruber and has expanded out into all areas of the internet. Markdown is particularly important as a format because, and here's how, like these are reference links. Like this is an example of a bunch of links that I have. So all of my articles are written in Markdown first and then rendered into HTML to go up on the web. Markdown also can be viewed natively in tools like Notion and Obsidian, which means if you have a Markdown document, you can drop that Markdown document into Obsidian and view it directly. You can also copy and paste a Markdown document into Notion and view it in Notion, and it will render correctly where the headers and the strongs and the links and all of that will work. So I'm starting to see more RPG products support Markdown. The ones that caught my attention recently, I'm actually going to switch over to my Obsidian view here. That some of the ones that have come out recently are the works of Raging Swan. So Dread Thingonomicon by Raging Swan has a whole bunch of different MD files, and you can view these Markdown files, as you can see, in Obsidian directly, and they scale and they flex. And if you've got Obsidian on your phone, you can view it on your phone. It formats nicely. It also makes it easy to like copy and paste stuff into other parts of your notes. So if you find something that you like, that you want, if you find one of these encounters on the wrecked ship and you want to drop it into your notes, you can copy and paste the text directly from here and drop it into your notes. Way easier than trying to deal with monkeying around with a PDF. Dread Thingonomicon does that. Dread Lairnomicon does that. So this is something that Raging Swan kind of embraced, that he was putting out documents in text and eventually kind of switched to Markdown. And I was like, if you just make them .mds, you can drop them right into Obsidian. By the way, you might find that. You might find that you get text versions of stuff that you want to drop in here. If you just change it from .txt to .md and drop it in, a lot of tools can let you like auto do it for a bunch of files. Apple, for example, you can say, turn all of these .text files that I select into Markdown files, and I'll do that. And that way you can drop them right into Obsidian, which uses .md as their format. There's probably a way in Markdown also, or in Obsidian, to tell it open text files as though they're Markdown, and that works too. So a couple of other interesting ones. So if you go to slyflourish.com, I have a couple of Lazy GM resource documents. These are parts of Return of the Lazy Dungeon Master, the workbook, the companion, and Forge of Foes that we have released under a Creative Commons license. It's under a Creative Commons attribution license, and we have HTML versions of these. So big, long documents that have lots of different things that you can use. Random tables, difficulty dials, lots of different, some of this is just advice, but then you'll also see that we have tables and things like that in here. And it's all available in Markdown. A Crit-Tech, a patron of Sly Flourish, actually put together an automated GitHub repo for this that converts these documents into a bunch of different formats, including EPUB. So again, these documents are available in EPUB, but also available as Obsidian Markdown documents. So right here, and there's links to all of this in the show notes. But if you go, you can get there pretty easily by going to Sly Flourish, going to Lazy GM's resource document, and at the bottom there's Crit-Tech's LGMRD GitHub repo. You click on that, and you can see these Obsidian versions of the chapters from the Lazy GM's resource document are available in Markdown. There again, we can go back to Obsidian, and for example, meant I could use them, right? So I have the Lazy GM resource document right here, and it's got a lot of stuff. So if I want to look at, for example, a very common one that I look for is, where is it? Not quick encounter building. Core adventure generators is a very common one. So this one actually has some Markdown plugin tools so that you can actually roll on these. I don't have those plugins installed, but I can see the lists right here. I've got my quest list, I've got my monuments and items list, and all of this is available inside Obsidian for me, which means it's much easier for me to go find this stuff and use it than it is to monkey around inside of a PDF. So that is an example. We also have the Lazy GM monster reference document available, and that is available at the same place. So, for example, we have the quick use monsters. We, of course, have the build a monster table in here. The table rendered is not great, but the general use combat stat blocks are here. So we have general use combat stat blocks that you can drop into your game that have very, very basic stat blocks for different challenge ratings that you can drop in and then customize and make your own custom monsters very easily. So all of that is available under these Markdown versions of the Lazy GM reference documents that are available on slyflourish.com. So what other ones? Well, then I was like, there's a lot of other stuff that's available out there, and some of it isn't in Markdown yet, but I can make it in Markdown. And an example was I did some work over for Open5e to help take the monsters from Kobold Press's Black Flag system reference document. And it occurred to me that I could take the Black Flag monsters and put them into one big file. So I have a Black Flag monsters reference document here where all of the monsters that are in the Black Flag, which is the Tales of the Valiant system reference document, are available in here. If I want a Balor, I can do a search for Balor and I can find the Balor stat block, again, right in it. You may be tempted to want to drop all of the monster stats as their own individual Markdown files. What I found is that actually slows down Obsidian. So I kind of like having it just in one single file and then searching for that single file. But that way I've got everything in here. I want a Lich. I can just do a search for Lich. And I have the Lich stat block from Black Flag, right? So that's all available. And again, a single file. So where do you find that? Well, you can find that on my own GitHub repo. So I have on GitHub a Lazy GM Tools GitHub repo where I've posted a lot of different stuff. And an example of one of the stuff that I did is I posted this Black Flag Monsters Markdown document under license from the orc license. The license is at the bottom of the file, and it has a Markdown version of all of the monsters. You can go straight to the raw version, which shows the Markdown, and it's one big document, right? And it's all formatted in Markdown. And you can grab that and drop that into a text document and drop it right into you can drop it into Notion, you can drop it into Obsidian. But here's a nice, easily formatted, easily transferable, easily converted version of all of the monsters that are available under Kobold Press's Black Flag, which are really excellent monster designs. Another example, so recently, Level Up Advanced 5e, all of the system reference documents for that, EN Publishing released a ton, almost basically everything of Level Up Advanced 5e is available under a Creative Commons license and had been locked up in PDFs. I was able to convert that stuff into Markdown files. So here is a lot of the core stuff from the 3 main books of Level Up Advanced 5e in Markdown as well. And one of the ones that I really love is the exploration chapter, which it's some of the best exploration rules I found in 5e overall. And it includes all the different kinds of journeys, journey activities, roles for the characters when they're going on these journeys. And then it's got these regional encounter tables in here. And all of these, I actually went through a fair bit of work to convert all of these encounter tables, and they're not perfect either. Some of them are kind of messed up, but they'll do the job. All of these encounter tables in Markdown in a nice list so that they look even better on a mobile device are available here. So if you're ever looking for random encounter tables, and again, all of this is released under a Creative Commons license, so if you wanted to put this in another product, you can. If you want to share this with other friends, you can. If you want to transform it in other works, you can. Make sure to reference it. They do use a Creative Commons attribution license, so you have to attribute it back to Level Up Advanced 5e. Very easy to do so. And you have that there too. And I also took the Level Up Advanced 5e Monstrous Menagerie monsters, which were available under Creative Commons, and made a single file for that as well. It's a great big file because it's a lot. You can see how long it's taken to load. So now we have also Level Up Advanced 5e versions of monsters that are available in Markdown in a single file that you can drop right into Obsidian and do a search and find and say, I want to find the Lich. There's the Lich, right? And so now you have 2 different versions of the Lich. If you want the more spellcasty type, you get the more spellcasty type from Level Up Advanced 5e. If you want the more like direct damage version of the Lich, you can use the one from Black Flag. Both of them are available as under a Creative Commons so this one is available under a Creative Commons license. Black Flag is available under the Orc license. Both of them are available in Markdown, which means you can take them and you can drop them into Obsidian. And then you've got a ton of monsters in your Obsidian notebook, locally, saved locally on your system so that you don't have to worry about the site being up. You could be in airplane mode on your phone. You could be in a convention where it doesn't work and you have all that stuff available to you sitting on it. Or the websites go down, or God knows what kind of crazy AI stuff Microsoft decides to do with GitHub. You still have your local copies of this that you can use and use legally because they're available under that license. And that's not all. We also have, so that's the Level Up Advanced 5e system reference document is there. The Black Flag, I don't have the rest of Black Flag in Markdown. I only have the monsters in Markdown. If some enterprising person wanted to convert the rest of it to Markdown, that would be totally awesome, but it looked like a lot of work and I didn't really have the time. But I also have the original WotC 5.1 system reference document, the entire thing in Markdown. So because they released that 2 years ago under a Creative Commons license, it means we have, and I actually went and found somebody else had done this on GitHub. I just forked it over to mine. And that's why it has these things like section dwarf in there, because I guess you can build like a table of contents from it. But this is the original 5.1 SRD published by Wizards of the Coast back in 2016 that has all that as well. And it's also got a lich. All right, we have another lich stat block. So that way we have 3 different lich stat blocks that we can use. The original one, oh, these are linked. What happens when you link? Oh, look, they're internally linked. Wow, that's really cool. So this one's even more usable. We can say, oh, I want to do disintegrate, and you click, and there's the disintegrate spell. So if you want the original, like 2014 D&D, which is the 2016 system reference document, and contains all the original D&D 2014 material, not all of it, but it contains all the stuff that they released under a Creative Commons license. You can get that in a single Markdown file that you can drop into your Obsidian notebook and view and keep forever in a format that's really easy for you to use. So here's the example of all of this stuff inside my Obsidian notebook. I've got the 5.1 SRD in here, right? I can do my same thing of, I'll do a search for lich. Who doesn't love liches? So here's the lich stat block from the 5.1 SRD. I wonder what happened if you click the link here. Yeah, these links don't work. Oh, no, they do work. Yeah, cool. So even the links work. So that's the original 5.1 SRD in case I want that. But then I also have the Level Up Advanced 5e version. I can go to the monsters here. I can search on that. But I can also, those exploration things, I can look at that. I have that all handy. Again, not perfect, like the formatting isn't 100%, but it's pretty good. I have the Black Flag monsters are in here. So having all of these system reference document level stuff is really handy because it's like the entire 5e rule set from multiple publishers in local versions that are all viewable in a tool that I can look at on my desktop, but also on my phone. So between Obsidian and the Markdown versions of these, there's a lot going on. And then of course you get these other tools like the Dread Laronomicon, Dread Thingonomicon, the LazyGM Monster Doc, LazyGM Resource Document, all that kind of stuff is available they're under Creative Commons licenses, but they're also usable. So Dread Laronomicon, Dread Thingonomicon, you have to go buy them, but when you buy them, you get Markdown versions of it. I had mentioned this, that I'm actually going to put City of Arches. This is the first time that I'm going to have any of my products available in Markdown. Some of it already is because it was converted over, but I'm going to take the City of Arches and create a Markdown version of the City of Arches as well. Everybody that buys the City of Arches or anybody that backed the Kickstarter that got the PDF of the City of Arches is going to get a Markdown version of City of Arches that they can drop right into Obsidian to use that. So I'm going to be working on that in the spring. I'm going to wait till we send the PDF off to print, at which point we will probably have hopefully nailed every single typo we have. That way I don't have to keep track of like 12 different versions of it. And I'm going to put that out it's not going to be in Creative Commons. You're going to have to go buy it. But if you buy it, you can take the Markdown version and you can drop it right into your Obsidian notebook. So that's going to be really cool. So there's a lot of neat stuff that's happening with Markdown and with RPG space. I think this is kind of a new area where people are starting to see the actual practical value of having open text-based versions of the RPG products that we're looking at. And I think it's a great way for you as a GM to be able to keep a hold of a lot of digital versions that are easily readable on your phone, but also local, so you know that you will always have them when you need them, whether you're online or offline, or whether the original site changes or whatever, you've got your own copies that you can keep locally. So I think that's really cool. So, and I hope you thought that was an interesting look as well. One other trick. So I've been big into Obsidian. I've been talking a lot about Obsidian. I use Obsidian for my game prep now for all of my games. I've been doing so for a little while, even though I've only recently switched over from Notion to Obsidian in my lazy RPG prep. I've actually been using Obsidian for my other games for about a year. And I really love Obsidian. Obsidian is a really great tool. It's a downloadable tool. It uses your own local repository. So you don't have to worry about a company, like a hosted company, changing it like Notion. Notion's been doing weird stuff. They've been doing a lot. They're real excited about the AI. And I'm kind of like, I think I'm going to move. if you're using Notion and you love it, and I still use Notion for other things, I'm just not using it for my game prep anymore. If you love Notion and you don't want to change, you do not feel, don't take my words as anything for like, oh, you should really switch over from one to the other. I don't believe that. But I know for me, I was totally happy to switch over to Obsidian, and I like it very much. One of the really cool tools that has been released for Obsidian that I think is very useful for us RPG folks is the web clipper. The web clipper can take web pages that you're on and convert them into Markdown and drop them into Obsidian. I use Firefox as my browser, and so there's a Firefox plugin from Obsidian for the web clipper, and when you click on it, you get a bunch of different options of what things you can do that can basically take the HTML of the page you're looking at and save the Markdown version into a clipper folder inside your Obsidian directory. I will give an example of that, which I will do it for my own stuff. So we're going to Sly Flourish, and we're going to go to that lazy GM resource document. This is obviously kind of a useless use case because it's already available in Markdown, but I'm just going to show you how it works. So here is a big page of stuff, and you're like, you know what would be better? Here, I'll give you another example. I had this article on dreadful blessings, right? I have an article about dreadful blessings, and it talks about when and where to use them and how to use them. And you decide, you know what? I really want to add that to my own library of useful RPG tools. I want to just have a section in there, almost like I'm building my own book about useful things that I found on the web that I want to drop into my game. You can do this here. So you go to the Dreadful Blessings website, you click on the web clipper, and the web clipper converts it all to Markdown and has a very simple add to Obsidian button. You click add to Obsidian, and now we will go back to our Obsidian directory here. And we have a clippings directory, right? A new added clippings directory. And in that clippings directory, you can see Dreadful Blessings. And in here is a full copy of the text. And you say like, I don't need this other, more stuff. We're going to edit that, right? And you can see it's all in Markdown. But I don't need any of this because that was all stuff for the article. And you don't need the title necessarily. And we have here a full copy of the document. This is actually the Markdown version. You want to have a readable version. You have the readable version of the document. And now it's saved locally. You've got the text version of it saved as a file on your local file system, which you could then cloud share on your own and internally. You don't have to worry about the website staying up. You don't have to worry about anything changing on the website. You've got your local copy. You don't have to worry about, again, if you're sharing all of your stuff among different setups, you could be in airplane mode on your phone, and that way you can view that article on your phone. So that web clipper is a super valuable tool for downloading HTML versions of web pages and saving them to your local Obsidian directory. I'm showing it here with articles, but you can use it on other stuff as well to save local copies of stuff that you might only be able to get remotely. So I would check that out. It's a very cool feature of Obsidian. Notion has the same thing. I haven't tried the Notion version, but Notion also has like a web clipper where you can save whatever web page you're on and save it locally. That could be really useful for situations where there are things that you like that you wish you had a downloadable copy so that you could have your own copy to keep. That is a way to do it. That is the Obsidian web clipper. Very valuable tool. If you enjoyed this show, please consider subscribing to the Sly Flourish newsletter. You can find a link in the show notes. It is absolutely free to sign up. You get a free adventure generator PDF, including a mini version of 5e that you can run for you and your friends tonight. And you get a weekly RPG-related article sent to your inbox every Tuesday. You can also support me on Patreon. Patrons get access to all kinds of tips, tricks, tools, accessories, and resources to help them run their games. They get access to the awesome Discord community and they get access to the Patreon Q&A. Lots of different things you get for being a patron of Sly Flourish. And you can pick up any of my books on the Sly Flourish bookstore. Thank you so much. Have a great day and get out there and play an RPG.